we have the great honor of having join us tonight on our radio show Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin. And the briefest of background, he was the United States Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence under President George W. Bush, and he has had a just stellar military career and a great patriot. But I want to talk with him tonight about things happening in America today and what his views are on some of the issues we're so concerned about. So first, welcome, Lieutenant General Boykin.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be with you.
Thank you. Okay, I want to start with President Donald Trump gave a speech at the UN recently, and there were a wide range of opinions offered. I both listened to it and read it, and I wondered first, with respect to North Korea, President Trump referred to the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un as Rocket Man, and talked about the idea that America could destroy North Korea. It seemed like some people thought that was a poor decision, a poor attitude. Others thought it showed toughness. I wonder what your reaction was to that.
I think the reason that Donald Trump is the President of the United States is because he is not politically correct and he does not talk in diplomatic terms. He speaks the language of the common man on the streets of America, and I thought that the Rocket Man comment was actually humorous, but it also had its own impact. And I think the idea that he was putting him on notice that he knows our capabilities, we can destroy North Korea, and if it comes to it, that's exactly what he intends to do. So I thought it was great. I think he's handling this very well.
I'm glad to hear you say that. I think that there are some people who are concerned that the needling of this dictator who seems to be so thin-skinned would cause him to react with more violence or irrationality. But actually, people like that need to hear that America is not afraid. And I think over the last 8 years, they may have concluded that America was a little bit afraid of serious military action. You agree?
How about the last 25 years? How about the last 25 years when 3 consecutive presidents have all said a nuclear-armed North Korea is not acceptable? And they spoke in diplomatic terms, and they stayed at the negotiating table, and they pretended to have sanctions on them. Well, guess what? He has nuclear weapons now. Don't you think maybe a different approach might be in order now? Because Trump is left with the situation that the other 3 did not have. And that is, Trump is left with a situation that we have a nuclear-armed North Korea, and it's not just a matter of modifying his behavior. It is now a matter of whether we're going to take those nuclear weapons, whether we're going to de-arm him, whether we're going to convince the world to get those nuclear weapons away from this guy by one means or another. I think Trump is handling this very well, and Kim Jong-un is so confused that he does not know what to do with this guy.
Love that. I want to switch. We only have a short time tonight. We could talk about North Korea the whole time, but I want to switch and just ask you, there are so many threats that appear to be very real and serious against America. People list threats being North Korea, Iran, or even China. What do you think is the biggest threat against America's security at this time?
In the short term, North Korea. Short term. But in the long term, it's actually an internal threat, and that is ignorance and apathy. The fact that we've got so many Americans that don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going on because they don't want to know what's going on, and as a result of that, they're not doing anything. They're not in the fight. They don't realize that America's culture and America's future is at stake today. They don't realize that under Donald Trump, we have a 4-year reprieve to get it right, to start turning around those things that are destroying our society, that are making us more vulnerable to an array of threats out there. So I think that the long-term threat, the biggest one, is just that, ignorance and apathy within the United States.
I love hearing that answer. I recall when, I believe it was Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, but someone made the point that at the time World War II occurred, we had so much, just a core of patriotism in America, and we had a lot of people willing to step up when they recognized the depth of the threat that Germany presented to the world. And the speculation or concern is, do we have that today? What if we had the level of attack against the world, the aggression by Germany, by Nazi Germany today? Do we have that core of patriotism and strength in the American people to stand up and win the fight? What do you think?
I think we are today living in a period of participation trophies, safe spaces, and don't let anybody offend me. Now, when those young men came across the beaches of Normandy in 1944 on the 6th of June, they were not there looking for safe space. They were looking to destroy an enemy that was an existential threat. Today, with this safe space participation trophy and don't offend me attitude, I'm not sure that America has the rigor and the toughness to stand up to a real enemy right now. Those young men and women in Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria that are over there fighting, they're tough. But I got to tell you, they are, in my mind, they are a cut above the average Americans today in terms of how they see things and the willingness that they would have to stand up to serious threats.
Yes, willingness to sacrifice safety and comfort of home. It is just astonishing. I do want to go back to North Korea because I meant to ask you something. At the time President Reagan began talking about the Star Wars defense, there was mockery in the media and throughout a lot of elements of American society, the idea that we could create something that could shoot down intercept missiles midair before they hit us. Now we're facing North Korea, which apparently has ICBMs, is able to use them. Did the military do enough to develop our Star Wars capacity to be able to meet that threat, or are we able today militarily to use the Star Wars type intercepting of missiles defense to fight back against North Korea? Do we have the capacity or not?
Well, I'm not an expert on that, so let me preface what I say with that. That said, Ronald Reagan was criticized heavily for his, quote, Star Wars initiative, because he was concerned about the Soviet Union. He was concerned about the Russians and the Chinese. And now we have at least two more key players that we need to be concerned about, and that is Iran and obviously North Korea. And during the Obama administration, he stopped all modernization of our missile defense systems. Now, he restarted it right at the end of his administration, but that was a setback. So we're, 3 or 4 years behind in terms of the development of those systems and that technology. We still have capabilities, and some of our best capabilities are on board ships, Aegis cruisers. But that said, do we have enough? And I'd say no, we don't have enough. And by the way, we don't have enough for the long-range kind of stuff. I don't think we have nearly enough. Most of what we have is theater-specific, like the theater high-altitude air defense, the THAAD system that we put in South Korea. Well, okay, that would maybe defend the Korean Peninsula. But what about the entire coastline of the United States? What about Alaska? Do we have capabilities to defend all these areas simultaneously? And I question whether we do. I don't think we can.
If you just tuned in this evening, we have the great pleasure of speaking with Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin. And I know I'm jumping around, but I just love having the opportunity to speak with you. I want to talk about the Iranian deal briefly. During President Trump's United Nations speech, he mentioned again concerns about the Iranian deal, and we're coming up on another time when we have to either certify or not certify that Iran is complying with that deal. And there's also talk about whether President Trump should respond to this by certifying to keep peace, by not certifying because the truth is they're not complying, or third, give serious consideration to withdrawing from the Iranian deal. What do you think?
Go look on the internet and look at what Bill Clinton said right after he cut the deal in 1994 with the North Koreans. He said America can rest well now. They're going to disassemble their nuclear program, and we all have a reason for optimism. Well, and then listen to John Kerry after he cut the Iran deal. Same verbiage, almost as if he copied Bill Clinton's speech. And both of them were wrong. And both of them were, as if I can be so crude to say, just full of beans. There was nothing to it. And what we did is we put North Korea on a pathway to a nuclear weapon. Now they have it. We've also put the Iranians on a pathway to nuclear weapons, and they're going to have it in less than a decade. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have it in the next 2 or 3 years. And we gave it to them because not only did we allow them to continue building a nuclear program, we let them keep centrifuges, and we let them modernize their centrifuges. We gave them $150 billion in cash. Where do you think that's going? You think it's going to the poor and the needy? No, it's going directly into their nuclear program, and we're funding it. And that's the sad thing about it. Israel is in a huge situation now that they're going to have to ultimately react to. And America, of course, we're threatened by the same thing.
So shall we just call the Iranian deal a bad deal and withdraw? Do you think that's the best course?
I think we need to reimpose unilateral sanctions. You won't get the Europeans to do that because as soon as we lifted sanctions, the Europeans went in there and made big investments. So they're not going to pull the plug on the investments of these European companies. But that said, I think America needs to show resolve. We need to come in now and reimpose sanctions and do just what we just did with North Korea. Say, if you're doing business with them, you don't do business with us. Any transactions that you do in dollars now, we're not going to honor. And we need to do that, and then we need to really start putting diplomatic pressure on them to reverse what they're doing. My big concern is that we've got a National Security Council right now supporting our president who's not giving him the right advice on this. And I'm very concerned about this because they're saying, well, it's a matter of America's word is at stake here. Hey, wait, come on, be realistic. Look at what the Iranians are doing. They are doing things that are clear violations of these treaties. And then look what they did after we signed this thing. They took 2 of our patrol boats, humiliated the sailors inside those patrol boats, never apologized for it. They've held hostages there. What more do they need to do for us to realize that they have no intentions of abiding by that treaty? And it is time for us to make a good decision and get out of that treaty, reimpose sanctions, and start putting pressure on them.
Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, I've just so enjoyed talking with you. I'm sorry we're out of time for the segment, but thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. I enjoyed being with you.